Europe in the late 15th century, a continent on the brink of monumental change, a time of change, of exploration, of dreams. The age of discovery was dawning, and with it, the promise of new horizons. Stories spread of lands across the ocean filled with gold and spices. These tales ignited the imaginations of many. These tales, fueled by ambition and greed, set the stage for the European colonization of South America. Adventurers and opportunists alike were drawn to the promise of untold wealth. Explorers, driven by promises of riches and glory, embarked on perilous voyages into the unknown. They faced treacherous seas and unpredictable weather. Little did they know they would encounter vast empires and diverse cultures, forever altering the destiny of two continents. The encounters were often marked by conflict and misunderstanding. The Spanish, with conquistadors like Francisco Pizarro and Hernán Cortés, led the charge. Their conquests were brutal and swift. Driven by the legend of El Dorado, a city of gold, they ventured into the heart of South America. The dense jungles and rugged terrain did little to deter their quest. The Portuguese, focused on Brazil, sought a foothold in the New World. They established settlements and began to exploit the land's resources. Other European powers soon followed, eager for their share of the wealth and power. The race for colonization was on. This relentless pursuit of riches would have profound and lasting consequences for the native inhabitants of South America. Their lives, cultures, and lands were forever changed by the arrival of the Europeans. The initial encounters between Europeans and the indigenous people of South America were marked by curiosity and caution. Imagine the scene: Spanish ships with their billowing sails arriving on shores that had never seen such vessels. Indigenous groups, diverse in their languages and customs, watched with a mixture of awe and apprehension. Some welcomed the newcomers with open arms, offering food and gifts. Others, sensing a threat, prepared to defend their lands and way of life. Communication proved difficult. Language barriers created misunderstandings, often leading to suspicion and fear. The Europeans, with their superior weaponry and horses, appeared godlike to some indigenous groups. This perception, however, would soon be shattered. As the Europeans' true intentions became clear, the pursuit of gold and the subjugation of native populations, the stage was set for centuries of conflict and exploitation. The Inca Empire, stretching along the Andes Mountains, stood as a testament to indigenous ingenuity and power. With its sophisticated road system, terraced agriculture, and centralized government, it rivaled any European kingdom in complexity and organization. Yet, this mighty empire would fall to a handful of Spanish conquistadors led by Francisco Pizarro. Through cunning, treachery, and superior weaponry, Pizarro captured the Inca Emperor Atahualpa, holding him hostage for a ransom of gold that would fill a room. Further north in Mesoamerica, the Aztec Empire met a similar fate. Hernán Cortés, with his small army and alliances forged with indigenous enemies of the Aztecs, conquered the magnificent city of Tenochtitlan. Disease, brought from Europe, ravaged the Aztec population, weakening their ability to resist. The fall of these empires marked a turning point in South American history, ushering in an era of European dominance. The Spanish conquistadors, though few in number, possessed technological advantages that proved decisive in their conquest of South America. Steel armor and swords outmatched the padded armor and clubs of the indigenous warriors. Horses, a novelty to the Americas, provided the Spanish with speed and maneuverability on the battlefield. But perhaps the most potent weapon wielded by the Europeans was invisible disease. Smallpox, measles, and influenza, carried by the conquerors, swept through the indigenous populations, decimating their numbers and weakening their resistance. Alongside warfare, religion played a crucial role in the Spanish conquest. Catholic priests accompanied the conquistadors, tasked with converting the indigenous populations to Christianity. Churches rose on the ruins of ancient temples. Indigenous beliefs and practices were suppressed, replaced with the doctrines of the Catholic Church. This forced conversion, often brutal and unforgiving, aimed to erase indigenous cultures and solidify Spanish control. Riches and resources, the spoils of a continent. The colonization of South America brought immense wealth to the European powers. Gold and silver, extracted from mines worked by indigenous laborers, flowed back to Europe, enriching the Spanish and Portuguese crowns. Vast agricultural estates established on land seized from native populations produced sugar, tobacco, and other valuable crops. These commodities fueled the burgeoning Atlantic economy, transforming Europe into a global power. The quest for riches drove the exploitation of South America's natural resources. Dense forests were cleared for timber, and vast herds of cattle grazed on former indigenous lands. This relentless pursuit of profit came at a heavy cost, leaving a legacy of environmental degradation that continues to impact South America today. A dying world. The devastation of disease. The most devastating consequence of European colonization for South America's indigenous populations was the introduction of Old World diseases. Smallpox, measles, influenza, and other pathogens, to which the indigenous people had no immunity, swept across the continent like wildfire. Entire villages were wiped out, families were decimated. The population collapse was catastrophic, with some estimates suggesting that up to 90% of the indigenous population perished in the centuries following European contact. This demographic disaster had profound social and cultural consequences. Traditional knowledge systems, passed down through generations, were lost as elders succumbed to disease. Social structures, built on kinship and community, were shattered. The loss of life was staggering, leaving an enduring trauma on the survivors and their descendants. Resistance and resilience. Indigenous strength. The story of South America's colonization is not simply one of conquest and subjugation. Indigenous people, despite facing overwhelming odds, resisted European encroachment in countless acts of courage and defiance. From the Amazon rainforest to the Andes Mountains, they fought to protect their lands, their cultures, and their way of life. Armed rebellions challenged Spanish authority. Religious leaders kept indigenous beliefs alive, often blending them with elements of Christianity. This spirit of resistance took many forms. Some indigenous groups retreated into remote regions, seeking refuge from the invaders. Others adopted guerrilla tactics, harassing Spanish patrols and disrupting supply lines. Still others found ways to preserve their cultures, passing down traditions through music, storytelling, and art. The resilience of South America's indigenous people is a testament to their strength and determination in the face of adversity. A new cultural tapestry, legacy and loss. This chapter delves into the intricate and often painful history that has shaped South America. The collision of European and indigenous cultures in South America gave rise to a new and complex social order, forever altering the continent's social fabric. Intermarriage between Europeans, Africans brought as slaves, and indigenous people created a diverse and racially mixed population, a unique blend of heritages. Spanish and Portuguese became the dominant languages, but indigenous tongues survived, often blending with the languages of the colonizers, creating a rich linguistic tapestry. This cultural fusion is reflected in South America's vibrant music, dance, cuisine, and art, which draw upon both European and indigenous traditions, creating a unique cultural identity. The legacy of colonization, however, remains deeply contested, with many still grappling with its impacts. The exploitation of indigenous labor, the seizure of lands, and the suppression of native cultures have left enduring scars, visible even today. Indigenous communities continue to face discrimination, poverty, and marginalization, struggling to preserve their heritage and rights. The struggle for recognition, rights, and reconciliation is ongoing, a reminder of the complex and often painful history that continues to shape South America today. The resilience and strength of these communities offer hope for a more inclusive future. Conclusion: Echoes of the past, shaping the future. The European colonization of South America was a transformative event, marking a turning point in the history of both continents. It brought about significant changes, both positive and negative, that have left an indelible mark on the region. The quest for gold and glory led to the conquest of mighty empires, altering the course of history forever. This pursuit resulted in the decimation of indigenous populations who had thrived for centuries before the arrival of Europeans. The exploitation of vast natural resources followed, leading to environmental changes that are still felt today. The consequences of this encounter continue to resonate today, shaping the social, cultural, and political landscapes of South America. The blend of cultures has created a unique and diverse society. As we look back on this complex and often troubling history, it is essential to acknowledge both the positive and negative aspects of this legacy, The rich cultural heritage and the painful memories are both part of the story. We must recognize the resilience and strength of indigenous cultures which have survived and adapted despite centuries of oppression and marginalization. These cultures have not only endured but have also contributed significantly to the broader society, enriching it in countless ways. And we must strive to build a more just and equitable future for all South Americans, one that honors the contributions of all its people and ensures that everyone has a voice. This future should be one that learns from the mistakes of the past and works towards reconciliation and unity. By understanding our history, we can better shape a future that is inclusive, respectful, and just for all.